because I need to turn the light on. It got really hot and humid here, so I'm kind of expecting a thunderstorm, maybe later this evening to kind of cool it down again. It was a really nice few days, and then suddenly we got back to frickin', weather again. So hot weather, icky weather, gross weather. Anyway, so what's going on? Well, like I reported earlier today in my upload, Mandalorian is coming out on Blu-rays, 4K. So I know what I want for Christmas, and it's not just the gun I want. Hi, Dave. How you doing? It's the I want that. Okay, so because it's cool. Um, anyway, it's gonna be tomorrow night. I'm gonna be like this because I always get that way before a new Star Wars TV show appears. I can't wait. I can't. It's gonna be a blast, and I'm really looking forward to uh, having a glass of wine and just animated stuff. I've got the Clone Wars 1 through 6 on Blu-ray. I've got that. You can find it on Amazon. Okay, so yeah, that's out there. I mean, I've got it. So anyway, but I wanted to talk a little bit about it because uh, it's really interesting. I was, of course, spying, doing my intelligence gathering on X, and first off, you all know that Uncle E got yeeted from X for a tweet. Oh yeah, I think so. I think they should put those out on physical too, just because. But I want to get back to this. Uncle E got yeeted from X, and it was over a tweet from years ago, where it's a kind of a funny picture of what a circle jerk would look like, and he was mocking people who aren't Comicsgate. I'm not Comicsgate because, oh hey Cross, I'm not Comicsgate because A, I don't read comic books. B, I am I mean, I don't understand everything that happened to it. I do know that it was the first place where SJWs went a bridge too far and got clapped back, and now mainstream comics aren't selling, and Uncle E and the boys, the comic Young Rippa, wow, unbelievable. But yeah, so he gets yeeted off of X for a tweet where it was kind of obscene, but it was funny, and it had been there for years and no one cared. And he got yeeted off that. Well, I was going through doing my spy thing, looking at certain Lucasfilm employees' X accounts, and they are out loud to each other talking about going to Blue Skies. So if you want to stay up to date with what the flying monkeys or grounded monkeys now are saying, get your thing into Blue Skies and get an invitation. All right, I've got mine in. The reason why is because if anything's bad is said about John and Dave, I am definitely going to make sure John and Dave find out. Okay, all right, so they can deal with it. But I do think that firings are going to be imminent, as the five horsemen are basically on their way out. Um, you know, and there's Pro is putting out a rumor that he's been told by his sources he doesn't have any sources that Kennedy is no longer seeking a contract extension. That's because Disney won't give her one. They don't have to. Um, and that she's going to be done in late 2024. See, this motherfucker always likes to put things in the way off in the future, fucking future machine. That's not how this is working. Okay. A, we don't know when her, hey, Sci-Fi Universes, we don't know when her contract is up. Was it last year they were talking about her contract extension, and then the year before they were talking about her getting a contract extension? And it's like, so I think it probably could be this October if she doesn't resign. I agree on that one, Cross. Uh, no, well, I mean, Iger can just say, uh, we don't want you around anymore. Go, you know, go back to Kennedy Marshall and lose money for your husband now. Okay, but I think Frank basically got shown the door too. I mean, if you working with Kennedy for him makes him look like a. No, I didn't. I didn't see it. I'm starting to get a lot of comments. In fact, Ira put the same comment up like 10 times on one of the recent uploads. I'm like, what? Anyway, um, anyway, uh, I think well, um, I don't look. Remember 2 years ago when we were like, they're not going to sign her to another contract, and they did? This is probably the last year of that contract. All right, it wasn't 2022, it was 2021. I remember that. I remember that. And I'm like, I don't, we don't know, unless, of course, she resigns. And if Bob Iger, Lord, please, uh, does his due diligence and has that piece of evidence, um, you know, it he can say, you can resign, or we can give this to the district attorney. Because the way I think about it, if what I think happened, I don't think it matters at all, that um, Kennedy wasn't the one doing the thing. She let it happen. Oh yeah, that's what happens. I mean, it crosses right. So, I expect something to be said soon. Look, they have to start letting people go. Okay, and when I was going through, uh, let's see if these will upload it to this phone. When I was going through, yes, it did. Wow. Uh, when I was going through X, uh, somebody asked Pablo, why is Ahsoka going to Batu? And they talked, and then Pablo said, don't the Mandalorian and Grogu also walk around? And then the idiot who asked about Ahsoka goes, I wouldn't know. Thought the whole park experience was between 8 and 9. Pablo says this. I think they've created some exceptions lately, though. I'm not in that particular loop. There you go. This is a very interesting little bit of information that you kind of want to read the subtext. He doesn't know what's going on in the parks. The fact that he had to ask, doesn't Din Djarin and Grogu walk around the park? Boba Fett walks around the park. Yeah, they're changing it. All right, he knows they're changing it. I mean, No one wants episodes 7 through 9. And I'm going to tell you something about this motherfucker. I think he knows he's done. He's never really been rah-rah about the sequel trilogy anyway. As long as it destroyed Han Solo and they were able to run his character into the ground because he's a white male and an alpha male. And Luke Skywalker as well. I think that's why he was so rah with it. And of course, he does love, because he got to write some of it, The Last Jedi. I'm gonna go. I will die on this hill. He wrote Canto Bight. Well, they've had Mando and Boba Fett and Grogu walking around the park for a while. It was like last fall or last summer that they appeared. So I'm like, whatever. Okay, whatever. Okay. But, it again, I fully expect some announcements to come because, hey, Pete, because here's the deal. You can't restructure that studio without telling people, okay? Without telling the investors, without telling the rags something is going on. So when people say, oh, blah, 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 they're not going to say anything, it's like, yeah, they are. I mean, maybe not she's fired. Of course, she could shock everybody and say, I'm resigning I'm leaving for personal issues or what's something stupid that they always do. But everybody in Hollywood knows it's over. I mean, if you want a Death Star like destruction of her career, all right, all you gotta do is Steven Spielberg basically saying, Maestro. Yeah, and Pete's right. I mean, Pete's right, and that's really the truth. I mean, you can't necessarily here.
Does either she's the architect.
Damn it. Why isn't it? Oh. I mean, this was the Death Star trench run, and Luke Skywalker blowing the fucking Death Star apart by shooting a proton torpedo into his basket. So, hi, Carl. I mean, now, I just realized it. When he says maestro, that's when she goes, wow, like that, looks down at her hands and goes, wow. She and Frank thought they were the glue that held the franchise together. It's like, no, you're not. And I'm gonna say this. I think that Frank has been a potted plant with her. He lets her do whatever she wants. What kind of a husband does that? Okay. He didn't take her aside and say, Kathy, can't do that to Indy. You can't. Why? People don't like Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's unlikable. I want her anyway, And that good storytelling is the point. So, what I expect tomorrow night, I don't know. I think we're gonna get to see some of that robot, that droid that says, we start over, or starting over again. If he is there, and he was the droid that kept all of the Jedi, he was basically one of the teachers to the Padawans, and his memory banks are full of Jedi lore and wisdom that we're going to see Luke. Okay. Yeah, that droid's over 100 years old. I think Frank let Kathy do what she wanted because she's his wife, which I know is stupid, but that's what I think went on. That's why I think that they're together, why they were paired together in the nuclear bomb into the exhaust port, that you know and he just let her do what she wanted because she's his wife. I go, wow. Well, that, or she's the boss. Hey, Corian, what's up? And that's basically everything that you don't look. We don't know what's really going on. All we know is that the house is for sale. Yeah, and Cross is right there. I mean, Frank should have taken her side before James Mangold was even hired. When I think Spielberg was like, I don't want to fucking do this. Looks at the script and I don't want to fucking do this. And if he'd have said, you can't do this. He is 10,000 years old. Okay, so in that part where the droid says, time to start over, or I can't remember, he says something like that. I'm like, Luke is standing there. Luke, that thing is connected to Luke because Luke wants to reaffirm the Jedi Order in the galaxy. And when you've got, let's go back into the prequels. If you've got 10,000, hey Tara, if you've got 10,000 Jedi and you've got Grand Inquisitors, I don't know how many or how many Inquisitors there were, but I'm going to assume that there were a few, and Darth Vader, and of course the 501st, but were there enough to wipe out all of them? We've got Obi-Wan and Kenobi saying the graffiti on the wall, and he says, Quinlan Voss. Quinlan, like that. Quinlan Voss is one of my favorite Jedi. I just want you all to know that. I think he's cool. Well, I know just some other guy, but I think Luke is standing there too. I think Luke is right there. Because he would be the one in Coruscant talking about reaffirming the Jedi Order with Mon Mothma and Leia and everybody else. So, or you get 100 Jedi. If you get Quinlan Voss and several others to come in and help, there you go. I don't see why they wouldn't have Luke in there. He's the one that is going to start training Jedi again. That's his mission, to reestablish the Jedi Order. Okay, no reason for Wang to not be with him. Yeah, I think you're right too, Peter. And also, you got to watch at least a little bit of Rebels, even though some of the people that saw the first two episodes said you don't need to watch Rebels in order to watch Ahsoka. And I have no idea what you just said, sci-fi. I don't. I mean, okay, what? I don't understand that, the fan part of that. But so I think we're gonna probably see him. We'll likely see Leia. There's no reason not to have her in this. Um, and hopefully we'll see Han Solo. I mean, in somewhere, maybe even just, I would even go, there's the Falcon with a round sensor dish, not that stupid rectangular thing. That looks stupid. Okay, that's dumb. All right, every time I look at that, I just go, yeah, good. And yeah, what is the blue box? Okay, what I don't know what that is. Um, so anyway, we have this to look forward to tomorrow. TARDIS. Ah ha ha. Very funny. Okay. Wrong franchise. If you want to see someone fall asleep, start talking about either Transformers or Doctor Who. Because I'd be home, I forget what day they showed it on PBS, and I'd be like, you know, um, yeah, I mean, I think that's what they're going to do. So we'll see. We'll see what, I mean, we're going to see what's going to happen. Okay. But this is going to be fun. And as far as what's going on with Kennedy, she's selling her house. She's out. She's president of Lucasfilm in name only. We haven't gotten any word on if they're going to announce restructuring Lucasfilm, but I think they're going to have to say something. Look, if the investors are told, we will find something out. Oh, I don't see. I can't set that up. I would want to watch it, and of course, the only tablet I've got doesn't work anymore. I've got an old Mac iPad, and it died. So, and I would watch it on that in a heartbeat. Okay, I hope we do see it. I think that's a great connection. Okay, and it links the prequels to the original trilogy to the aftermath, which I'm not calling. Oh, I know what this was. So that when Pablo was talking to that guy, right? The guy asked something about, is it going to be in the sequel era? And then because he wanted to know why Ahsoka was going to be in the parks. And Pablo was like, not really. I mean, he answered, he didn't answer. And I'm sure he was told, don't say anything, first off. And it's also, he probably doesn't know, but I think he's probably aware that a slow changeover is going to happen. All right, you're going to see more characters that people care about. Vader walking around the park, no Kylo Ren. I mean, look, the hotel is done. It's closing this coming month, within a few days. Well, I think if a prompt firing is in order, if he does say anything, would stop him. Now, I am going to say this. Yeah, they look, no one, look. Again, if you go to Ollie's and you look at the Star Wars stuff that they have, there's some Mandalorian. Okay, they haven't sold all that. But there's still Rays from TLJ, from TFA, and that's all they got. Okay, that's it. That's all they got. And it's there's still she is there's so many that she's far more numerous than some of the other characters. Okay, And it's like, I know collectors went in there and bought them because those guys who buy them and then hoard them will sell them on eBay for a little more than they bought them for. I don't think it's worth it because how are they going to buy them when no one? Look, if people didn't want them at Walmart and didn't want them at Target, why, in the name of all that is holy, would they ever want them from Ollie's or after eBay when they're being sold for more? I mean, the reason why you buy and hoard these things is to sell them. She Sci-Fi universes, she can't be fired unless they have a morals issue, and they might. They are a Dollar Tree, Peter. They are. There was some gin ursos at mine too. Now, I didn't mind gin, um, and at all because she had a point. Ray has no point. There's no point to Ray. There's no point to her. And the people that defend this character don't have a leg to stand on because she's a Palpatine, basically a Palpatine through cloning, which is just weird. And she's a Mary Sue. She is. I mean, I don't care who gets mad. Gail Simone gets mad. Anita Sarkeesian. Who did EVS call the blue-haired land whale? I can't remember her name. But she really caused a lot of problems. In fact, if I remember correctly, he basically had his lawyers write her a letter to cease and desist. Okay. No, Rey didn't have a purpose at all. Her purpose was to embarrass Han Solo and then embarrass Luke. All right. That wasn't Gail Simone. It was this other one. Because I just mentioned Gail Simone. It wasn't Gail Simone and it wasn't Anita Sarkeesian. It was somebody else, and I couldn't think of her name. And I think she basically left Twitter because EVS was like, fucking taking your shit anymore. And he had every right not to. Yeah, I can see her. I can see her. It does cross. But that was like in 2018 and I think 2019 is when it got to the point where EVS had to take out had to have a cease and desist letter sent to her. Because he told her, I'm going to get my lawyer, I'm going to stick my lawyer on you. And she kept doing it, and he sicked his lawyer on her. And I think she left. Now, there was a guy who I think actually was making threats, and he was a creator, I think at DC Comics, saying all kinds of shit and making threats. But, she, I don't know, there are just so many. There are just so many. But when I saw, because a lot of people, there are a couple of people who've been locked out of their accounts for innocuous tweets. I mean, one was we're talking Star Wars, so keep the politics off. Okay, I don't try to talk politics at all on my live broadcasts. Anyway, you threw me off my train of thought. But when all that crap was breaking out there, I mean, Cyberfrog was going crazy. and EVS is really like gaining popularity. So people went nuts. It wasn't because of his politics. It was because he told DC Comics to fuck off. Oh yeah, yeah, there were innocuous bans along with they weren't bans. They're locked out. I mean, locked out for a few days, and they'll be back. But I thought it was interesting because Pablo is on Twitter basically saying he's going to watch it burn to the ground. I mean, look, this motherfucker doesn't have any clue about what he's talking about when it comes to economics, and he has no idea who Elon Musk is. I mean, Musk is like, you know, and, but I am going to say this, and I think Corian would agree with me that it was probably Pablo. Look, just because the bots are on notice doesn't mean they're not used. And when I looked at what happened to EVS, that was a swarm of bots reporting that tweet. Okay, from a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. Okay, that's why it happened. Okay, same thing to other people. You know, there's a tweet out there where someone quote tweeted somebody and then used bitch, 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 like in the beginning and at the end. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Absolutely no, no, I don't think the word bitch is really a word that should probably bother anybody on Twitter. But the person who posted that quote tweet is like, I'm in jail right now. For what? And, people are blaming Elon or the CEO of Twitter. It's like, look, there are millions and millions of people on Twitter, and some of them will fuck with you because they don't like your politics and they're jealous of you, and they will make your life a living hell. Okay, and that's I think what happened, and if I'm looking for a if I'm looking for a culprit, I would say it's probably Pablo. However, there are people, uh, there are people out there in our so-called side of the fandom who will fuck with you too. Okay, I mean they will fuck with you too and make your life a living hell too. Why? Because again, pride, envy, greed, and hate, wrath. Okay, well, at least 5 of the deadly sins. Okay, so you just gotta. Well, yeah, and it's interesting. The tone has changed. So you've got Mrs. Hidalgo. Oh, you want to see a picture of her? I mean, she's literally the most beautiful woman in the whole world. And okay, those are all videos. I'm gonna go up here. I mean, she's just here. So she's 7 years younger than me. This woman is 7 years younger than me. She looks like my Aunt June. It's like, what the, so no, it's like, yes, I am getting catty right now. But if you're 47, 48 years old, and your goal is to look like your grandmother from the 40s, you really, 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 um, thank you, Corian. Hey, I'm gonna make you a wrench. All right, there, there. You are now a wrench. Okay. Um. Anyway, I um, I don't understand why you would let yourself fall apart like that. And it's, she'll get all defensive. It's like, look, lady, I am 55 years old. Okay, 55. You look older than me by a lot. I mean, there are women at church that are in their 80s that look better than she does. You know, I'm like, I probably look like I'm like 45 or 40. I don't know. I mean, I look at myself and say, at least, this is about the only place where you can see wrinkles, but that's it. And I know how to use makeup. Okay. But I look at this woman and I go, why would you want to put a picture of that? There's, fine. Okay. Fine. Um, she's a chief nerd. Okay. Nerds don't have to look like that though either. I mean, she really does. I could find a picture of my grandmother from the 40s when my mom and dad got married, or after they got married and dad came back because my brother Bill was born. And my grandma Itri looked like that. Okay, that's what old ladies look like. I mean, it's like, that's what old ladies look like. You know, I, and then her husband has the gall to tell people you're too old for Star Wars. It's like, because we're a big Catholic family, I'm number 9 of 9, and actually there were 11, but one baby was miscarried, and my brother David died at birth. Okay. It's like, why? It's like, okay, so you're telling me, Pablo, with your balding gray head and the hairline receding fast, retreating faster than the Germans at the end of the Battle of the Bulge. Why, when you do not take care of yourself and you act like you're a freaking mutated 10-year-old on Twitter, or you used to before you got yelled at and threatened with being fired. And why do you talk about Star Wars being for children, and your wife says the same thing, yet you two look like you do. You look like an elderly couple, and you act like you're 5. I mean, I'm going to put another Transformer drawing I did on my Twitter account. First off, again, I hate Transformers. I think when I tried to watch that cartoon with my nephew, and I was like, can we watch G.I. Joe again? I mean, yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't, because the one thing the Black Pills understand is that Star Wars, in George's mind, was for everybody. I mean, when I played the first movie for my dad, I got it on VHS, rented it, and we sat down to watch it. He loved it. He I think thought he was a Trekkie. My World War II veteran father was a Trekkie, and it was very interesting to see how he looked at Star Wars as being so different. But he said, this is a Western. And who was his favorite character? Han Solo. Because I knew my dad would like that character because he loved Captain Kirk. He loved anything with John Wayne in it. He loved Clint Eastwood, and having a character like that, dressed like that, was something that he could relate to, and he could relate to the spiritual side of Obi-Wan and the Force, because Catholicism can be a very mystical thing, and if you really get into it, there have been many saints who have been mystics. Okay, many. Padre Pio, he had the ability to project himself in other places, which is, you know, he had the ability to be praying, and if he needed help walking, because at the end of his life he was really arthritic, and the person who was supposed to be there to help him had fallen asleep, and then the kid is laying there and he hears a voice and Padre Pio is standing there. Come and get me. It's like, okay. But so that is something I think anybody with a bent towards the soul would be drawn to, is the spirituality of the Force. And it was really interesting watching my dad watch it, and then The Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. He it was watching that with him was different than watching Star Trek, and I think in some ways he got more out of it because of it's bigger than just the science. I always tell people who are like, trust the science. I always tell people this. Honest to God, honest to God, you're Galileo, and you put it out there that mathematics and everything proves that the Earth revolves around the sun. And the settled science was the sun revolves around the Earth, and even that way, the Earth was flat. Okay, that was settled science by the church, because by the way, back in those days, the centers of learning were the monasteries and the seminaries and universities were starting to appear. But and he got drummed out of the church for that. 100 years later, it's settled science. The Earth is round. The Earth revolves around the sun. So when people say like climate change, it's settled science. It's like, no, it's not. We've only been recording temperature for the last 165 years. What was the temperature 1,000 years ago in Rome? What was it in Shanghai? What was it in Jerusalem? What was it in London? Okay, all right. What was it? There was a cold period, I think, during the Dark Ages. What was it then? See what I'm saying? So the science is never settled. They're learning things about the brain that debunks things they thought. They're learning things about black holes that they didn't know they could do. Some of Einstein's ideas have been, Euler Gregg, who, by the way, is somebody who's kind of in tune with what's going on at Lucasfilm. I always like getting news from him. So what do you think? Is Kennedy basically leaving? Because we're pretty, we've got it. She's president in name only anymore. But it's always nice to have other people that are trustworthy come in with what they've heard or what they think. I wasn't talking to you, Jack. I was talking to Euler Gregg. But okay. But so when people talk about science and while it's interesting and logical, because we discover more, it changes. Okay, that's the thing about science. And history isn't even an exact science unless you have primary sources, letters, photographs. Okay, I'll give you an example. For word of mouth history, when Saint Helena, the mother of Constantine, went to Jerusalem, she wanted to find the tomb where all these big things, the upper room, the Via Dolorosa, the tomb where Jesus was buried, etc. And it had been 300 years, I think there's about 300 years or so between 32 AD and when she was there, and they took her to the place where he was buried. Okay, that's why you have the church there, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and now later a British guy decided the Garden Tomb was it because it was convenient. It's like, okay, okay. I trust the word of mouth of the people that live there than, than some British guy who's trying to outdo somebody else because they don't quite have the same beliefs he does. I mean, it's like, shut up. We're all Christians, just be quiet. You know, and it's like, okay, let's talk about the Vikings. Did women fight? Well, there have been longboats, burials with women buried in them with weapons. Yeah, the women, shield maidens were real. There's a story from Newfoundland with about a pregnant Viking woman, and these were not the Danes; these were Norwegians. Okay, the Danes were very much more the politically minded colonizers, whatever, while my Viking ancestors just pillaged everybody, and Greenland, and took Greenland and Iceland. But there was stories of a pregnant woman with them, fighting alongside them. It's like, really? But that's that those are true things, and the more we get to look at the archaeological evidence, the better understanding we have of who these people were, how they lived their lives, what their beliefs were, and all kinds of things. With Greece, they found Troy? They actually did find Troy. They've actually found the oldest synagogue dated back to the 2nd century in what used to be Greece. Not the 2nd century, Second Temple. All right, the temple that the Romans end up razing to the ground. Second Temple. Okay, so there's some really kind of cool stuff going on. And, I don't know how I got on this tangent about science, but whatever, and belief and whatever, but, so there's more to Star Wars than this is how hyperdrive works. This is how this works. The logic comes from a Jedi's reasoning. Yoda. There's no try, there's do or do not. Okay. And that was like one of the big things I remember him saying. This slowing down the impatience, not being so impatient, and allowing yourself to learn, to gain wisdom. All right. That is a big part of it. So it didn't really matter how a hyperdrive worked. People complaining about midichlorians. When a male sperm, a human sperm, and a human egg get together, there's a flash of light. Did you know that? All right. That's science. That's scientifically provable. So, you have people dying of heartbreak. Debbie Reynolds, after Carrie Fisher died of a broken heart. You've got other people, like Dean Martin. His son, Dean Paul Martin, was a reserve Air Force pilot, California Air Force Reserve. And he was flying his F-4 Phantom over the mountains in California, experienced some weather and crashed and died. Dean Martin hung on, but he died of a broken heart. You know, Dean Paul died in 1987, and I think Dino died in 95. Okay, so that's a little longer, but still. Okay, so yes, your feelings that are affecting your mind and your soul can affect your health. So yes, when I hear midichlorians, I understand what that is supposed to be. It is a physical kind of manifestation of how powerful somebody can be in the force. And the more midichlorians they have, the stronger they are. That's pretty simple. So, all right, I gotta go because Cameron and Polly are doing a show about Blue Beetle, but I'll be back tomorrow to do a live before the show starts, and you know, figure out maybe we will watch it together. I don't know. Anyway, did you burp? Look. Do you want to say hi? He burped. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. And you all be good. Bye, Corian. Bye, Euler Greg. And, you know, you guys have a good evening. And we're going to have some fun. I think the next 8 weeks are going to be great. I'll see you guys around the galaxy.